Go.
Streaming from South Africa to the world. This is the Stonks Go Moon podcast. What just happened? We break it down so you don't have to.
Welcome everyone to the Stonks Go Moon podcast. My guest today, Pavan Sathiraju, ex-McKinsey and now creating value for young career professionals. Pavan, welcome to the pod.
Thank you so much for having me, Rocco. I'm super excited to be here and I'm looking forward for our discussion today.
I would be remiss if I didn't say apologies for the Test Series win on home soil. South Africa is still unvanquished. I know you guys love your cricket. We had to do what we had to do.
That's all right. Let's see. The ODI series is still on the line. So
the ODI series is still on the line. I love that fighting spirit. But one, there is so many people that are leaving institutions. You are ex-McKinsey yourself. First, before we dig into that, why do you think that's happening and why is that happening now?
So I think a couple of reasons. If I talk about myself, right?
Yes.
There are a lot of trends out there. But the first thing I want to mention is that right now, folks are able to see that, hey, yes, even if you spend time on something risky, you are able to complete that wealth creation loop. You are able to make that next step into successfully as an entrepreneur, right? Previously, it was always like, hey, there was a lot of risk involved, so I don't want to do this. I have a pretty stable career, so I don't want to mess with it, right? But now the stakes are changing. The table stakes itself is that, hey, is it possible for me to do the next best thing that I can? And if yes, there is always a possibility that you can make it into a success. So that is one thing. For me, fundamentally, what was more important was I always enjoyed helping people, whether it is a client or whether it's an individual. So that made me stick to McKinsey for a very, very, very long time. Yes. And seeing the organizations grow, making sure that the clients value what we are helping them with. So that was like a huge motivating factor for me.
When did that penny drop for you? Some people say they're on the shower or they spend time with the kids. You know what I mean? It's like, if you look back, can you remember when that penny drop moment was for you?
Oh yeah, it is like that's super specific, of course, situation, and I do remember it. It's still like fresh on my mind. Like, of course, I remember these kind of. That's a major decision, so you do remember these kind of things that help you make that switch, right? So every year at McKinsey, New York, I used to take off for 3 months every year. It's an unpaid
it's like a
off.
sabbatical. Yes. Okay. I'm with you.
It's like a sabbatical. Nobody's going to call you. You can completely turn off your work phone, emails, no disturbance whatsoever. And a lot of people do that. And they usually go probably trek or they ride from like north to south of Europe, bunch of crazy things. But what I did was I used to go to a high school in Washington, DC every year, 3 months. And I volunteered my time as a teacher. Wow. And that experience, doing it for 4 years, 5 years continuously, made me realize that I actually probably love helping individuals more than helping organizations. And I did that for 5 years, 6 years, and I just wanted to ensure that, yes, this is really what I want to do. And slowly that helped me make my switch from consulting to education space.
So talk to me about that space, because content creation is, contrary to popular belief, it's not easy, right? Because if you come from these institutions, you're maybe not like, with these YouTubers and these young people coming up. How did you go about figuring out, okay, cool, so I need to create content. So how am I going to start? You know what I mean? So
the most difficult thing in content creation for me personally, was that it is boring. Content creation it was not tough for me, but it was like boring because I have to sit in a room, focus on what I want to do, and there was no talking to anybody else. right? So that was the most difficult thing for me.
Well,
Well,
that
I
is the
did.
best. Sorry, that is the best one, because no one realized how boring and lonely the life of a content creator gets, right? Because we all
Absolutely.
think it's like people coming together in a room and creating. No, it's you and your message and how you want to get it across. That's a good point.
Exactly. So that was the toughest thing for me.
Yes.
So I always lived, breathed, and like I worked in a team room setup. So for me, having 3 to 4 people around me was like, it's like a mandatory thing for me to actually perform at my highest level possible. So
Okay.
making that shift into a lonely, boring task, that was the most difficult thing. It was not about the actual content per se, because I was already a consultant. I had exposure
Yes.
to a lot of industries. I could speak about consulting itself. I could speak about various industries. I was an interviewer. I could speak about that. I studied abroad. I could speak about that. So a lot of
Yes.
topics were that the process itself is more difficult than the topic for me.
Okay. So looking at your content creation and you specifically, you set out to help young professionals. Am I right? That's your market niche. So COVID has changed that landscape quite dramatically with work from home, or remote work or hybrid work. What do you see as the 2 biggest challenges for young career professionals just starting out? Because as much as we want to say it's business as usual, it's not. So to me, the challenges are different. So what are you seeing to be the 2 biggest challenges starting out?
So the 2 biggest challenges, I would say the first one being, we were always used to, hey, going to a undergrad school or like a master's program and sitting in the placements and trying to get a job, right? At least I have seen that happen quite a lot in India. Folks rely on their universities to get that internship or placement or whatever it is, right?
Yes.
For the next steps in their career.
Yes.
But if I look back at my experiences in the US, I know that I did some research around this, and the facts are that almost 60 to 70% of the undergrad students in the US get their post-undergrad job through a referral or through a networking event. It's not through their campus support. And that is going to be the norm. It's not like, hey, it's a nice to have, but it's a norm going forward in the rest of the world as well. So if somebody is not good with networking, or let me take a step back, if somebody doesn't focus on networking, right? You can be, of course, good at it if you do it for a very long time. We know that. But if some student or if a young professional is not focusing on networking, it is very difficult for them to progress at a faster pace, right? Because your network, your referrals, these are the things which will help you grow both in your professional career and also as an individual. So that is first difficult thing. If you have not concentrated on that, that's going to be a big switch, right? Like working from a team environment to being a boring content creator, this is also going to be a huge switch. That's number one. The second thing, we know that if you are a consultant, if you are a marketer, if you are, let's say, a supply chain ops guy, whatever is your interest area, right? Doesn't matter. You need to be on the front foot with respect to the tech world too, right? So you need to know what's happening with respect to Web 3.0. You need to know what's happening with respect to blockchain. You need to know a lot of these things.
That's a fast moving industry. It's hyper fluid at the moment.
Yes, the reason why, because you need to be updated with that industry, is because, hey, there are not too many professionals out there who know this stuff inside out, and the recruiters, the HRs, the folks who are running these organizations also realize that fact.
Wow.
Okay. Right? So even if you are getting started, it's very easy for you to get started and build that career in that space, and that's only going to grow bigger.
So looking at those 2 things and looking how the way that you help people, what do you see for yourself? What's the next? And I know you've just started, but what is for Pavan? What is the next step up in trying to help more young career professionals and just raising that level a little bit? Do you have anything larger plans in your mind?
So no specific larger plans as such, but my if I look at what I want to actually do in the next couple of years, or even much more shorter term, I'm not even talking about the longer term, but probably 3 months, 6 months, 9 months down the lane.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to add some kind of insights which will help these young professionals take that next step. And I want to come up with these insights which can help them take these next steps in a very practical way, helping them understand both the reward and also risk that comes with that next step, right?
Yes.
And give these practical ideas. Hey, not around like, hey, what should you do if you want to become a consultant? What should you do if you want to become a product manager? Hey, improve your communication skills, become a great problem solver.
Yes.
These are high level words, but what does communication mean? How do you improve on that aspect? There are some practical tips and tricks that you can use. So I want to focus on the practical elements of how somebody can progress in their career.
That's something that's so needed out there at the moment. Pavan, thank you so much for joining me today. If the listeners want to connect with you and check out your YouTube channels, we'll obviously link it in the socials. But where can they find you? What's the best place to find Pavan?
The best place to find me is on YouTube right now,
yes.
Or I'm always available on LinkedIn.
Thank you so much for joining us. To our listeners, peace, love, and prosperity, and we'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.